of course, I suppose that it's very possible that she had attempted to pray to her other gods to get rid of this demon in her daughter, and I'm sure she's probably done some other things, and so she may be at her wit's end, but we do know right now she's taking a pretty serious social risk, and so I think that those of us who have children can really understand kind of emotionally where she is right now. And so she comes to Jesus, she falls before him, and she begins to beg him for the healing of her daughter, for Jesus to liberate her daughter from this demon. Now, this is where the story gets very interesting for me. I've always found this story to just be just very telling and sort of convicting, and this is where it really kind of grabs a hold of me. Jesus' response here, it's pretty surprising initially. Like at first glance, this is a pretty surprising response. In verse 27, after she's come and she's begged him for her daughter's liberation, and he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." And now the level of harshness in this is debated. How harsh was Jesus being? How rough was he in this? Because what he means here is when he says the bread, he means his message and his grace. He means the gospel. And now when he says children, he means the Jews, his people, the Jews. And then when he says dogs, he's talking about non-Jews. He's talking about all the Gentiles. And so what Jesus says here is, it's not right. It's not right for me to take my grace, my gospel, and give it to the dogs. And there's quite a bit of quite a bit of debate as to how harsh Jesus is being here. It could be that he's giving like the party line. By that I mean all Jews thought that all Gentiles were dogs, and they didn't mean dogs like. I'm sure there are people in here that like dogs. Claudia likes dogs. So when she says dog, and I say dog, we mean two different things. You know, she probably feels bad when they get hit by vehicles. So we have a difference of opinion there. All right, no, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, we have some people are dog people, which sounds funny to me, but they're dog people. I don't know why you want to call yourself a dog person. Anyhow, it sounds like a sci-fi channel thing. I don't know. It's the dog people. Anyhow, but some people love dogs, and some people, when they think of dogs, they think of a nice little pet that curls up on your lap. But the Jews, when they said dogs, they were thinking of unclean, stray, wild mongrels. When the Jews called Gentiles dogs, they didn't mean it nicely. Now, probably, Jesus means it nicely. There's quite a bit of evidence that as nicely as you can mean it when you call someone a dog. There's quite a bit of evidence that the ancient language here, it means like the small dogs you keep as a house pet. Puppies would be kept, and they would eat the leftover crumbs from the table. They would stay under the tables, and so this is more like a house pet kind of a thing. Jesus is, instead of calling them like the really rough term for dog that the Jews, the typical Jew would call a Gentile, he's probably referring to like the softer house pet. There's quite a bit of evidence that that's the way he's going. But either way, he turns her down. Either way, he turns her down flat. She comes to him, she's taking all of this risk, and she's falling at his feet, and she's begging him to deliver her daughter from this demon. And he says, "Let the children be fed first. Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." Now, Jesus is doing two big things here. at least. I'm sure he's doing many more that I, in my little brain, have not caught on to. But Jesus is doing two big things here. One of them is he's stating again the big scheme of salvation, the overarching plan of salvation. There's a key word here, and I think it's first. Jesus says, let the children be fed first. And over in the Bible, from the very beginning, from the promise that God made to Abraham, and then the way Paul also talks about the gospel, it comes to the Jew first. It came to the Jews first. And part of God's plan of salvation, part of his plan of redemption, was that the Jews would get the first crack at it. They would be the ones that the gospel is preached to first. Jesus would come for them first. And then we know, like in the book of Acts, many of them get saved. And that's where the church starts. It starts in Jerusalem. It starts and it spreads from Jews. God uses his people, his Old Testament chosen people, and he uses them. But the promise also, all along the way, is that God is going to bless the Gentiles. He's going to bless the rest of the world. I know that the Jews had lost track of that during this time period. During this time period, the Jews had lost track of the fact that God intended to use them to bless the rest of the world. He made a pretty specific promise to Abraham that through you all the nations of the world are going to be blessed. And over in Isaiah and over in the Psalms, God talks about how he is going to make worshipers from every tongue and every nation and all of this. He gets really specific. He talks about having worshipers from Babylon and from Egypt. And God has a worldwide vision for salvation, but it starts with the Jews. And so Jesus is sort of reiterating that here. He's saying the gospel is going to be presented to the Jews first. And so that's when he says, let the children eat first. That's what he is. That's what he's referring to. And then in Paul in Romans chapter 1 and in Romans chapter 3 and elsewhere, he reiterates that he says that the gospel is to the Jews first, and then to the Greek, and then to the Gentile. This is one of the things that Jesus is doing here. One of the things is that he is. One of the things is that he's kind of restating the big scheme of things. And I, for one, am very thankful that Jesus didn't come for the Jew only. I'm very thankful that in God's redemptive plan, it was Jew first and then to the Gentile, because I am a Gentile.